Inside his cramped West Hollywood one-bedroom, Rob Pyers is navigating a labyrinth of databases. He's trying to uncover sources of money and influence in California politics, but it's not easy. The state's website designed to promote transparency isn't transparent at all, which is what Pyers has set out to fix. The website he runs is called the California Target Book.
California's CalAccess website, it's notorious for being just sort of an ungodly Byzantine mess that if you have no idea what you're doing, it's nearly impossible to get any useful information out of.
Pyers, who describes himself as 95 pounds of concentrated tech geek, has become an expert on pulling data from hundreds of voter databases, election filings, and campaign finance disclosures. While the state's website can seem designed to bury useful information, the California Target Book takes that same information and makes it easy to find and interpret.
Most of the stuff is publicly available, but it's just a question of aggregating it all in one spot and trying to make it as easy to digest as possible.
Why is the government so bad at putting out this information? Why is this not a public function?
Well, I mean, everyone wants to run on campaign transparency, but actually executing it, well, that's where interest seems to go away. Now, as far as California, there's always been a steady drumbeat. Can we fix this? Can we fix this? Can we fix this? Finally, last year, they passed a bit of legislation that would spend something like $15 million over the next 2 or 3 years trying to bring it into the 21st century. And
are you worried about that eating your lunch, or do you have faith that they can screw it up again?
Well, let me just say that, I'm happy to have my system in place in the meantime.
Okay. Pyers has built the Target Book system from the ground up, despite having no previous programming experience. The 41-year-old only joined the site 2 years ago after he was laid off from his job bagging groceries at Walgreens. And while the government builds its multi-million-dollar system, the Target Book has already proven its worth. The site actively scans its sources for new information, notifying the public as soon as it appears.
Anytime there's a major contribution over $10,000, anytime there's a major independent expenditure over $10,000, it'll log it, tweet out the link, and do a screenshot of everything. Another thing is anyone that is on a watch list that I have set up, like anyone who's spent like over $5 million in independent expenditures in the 2016 campaign, I added their committee number to a list. I'd like to think that I'm doing whatever I can to try to make everything more transparent.
His efforts have helped expose the unseemly side of establishment politics. During one 2016 congressional race, the LA Times used Pyers' data to reveal that candidate Isidore Hall may have misused hundreds of thousands of dollars of campaign cash.
He was endorsed by all the Democratic Party establishment. He was the odds-on favorite. He was a sitting state senator. He ended up getting defeated by a grassroots candidate who, in the final stretch of the campaign, managed to raise a ton from unitemized small donor people. He ended up with something like $6,000 remaining in his campaign account and over $500,000 in campaign debts. He might have a difficult time running again anytime in the near future.
Pyers believes radical transparency is the best method for rooting out corruption because regulatory interventions tend to backfire.
For too many years, you've watched government fail over and over again.
He bases this belief on the real-world effects he's seen in California. In 2010, the state revamped primary elections to make them nonpartisan. Reformers promised this system would help moderates and minor party candidates.
It's a historic victory for our state and for our people.
Pyers says it's further tipped the scales toward one-party rule.
All the money that typically would have gone to the Republican versus the Democrat, it's now migrating over towards the moderate Democrat versus the liberal Democrat.
Show me what democracy looks like!
This system of nonpartisan elections has, if anything, increased the power of special interests.
In almost every case, you had a Democrat who was endorsed by the California Teachers Association and the California Federation of Teachers versus one who was endorsed by the California Charter Schools Association and the Charter Advocates. Race after race after race, those Democrat versus Democrat races tended to be the most expensive ones out there. One Bay Area district assembly race, spending by both sides over the course of the year was in excess of $9.3 million. That's more than any congressional race in California.
Another popular reform is campaign finance limits. But again, Pyers believes such regulations backfire and actively hurt candidates who aren't backed by a major party or special interest.
I think the problem we're seeing right now, it's twofold. Campaigns are getting increasingly expensive. They're lasting longer with the trend towards earlier and earlier voting. It becomes more difficult assembling a war chest when you're limited to something like $2,700 per transaction, while at the same time outside groups can come in and raise unlimited amounts, just wasting all of this time and effort, and in the end their message can be overwhelmed by someone coming in from outside of them, taking control. It's not the campaign that they want to run. I think deregulating things has been, I think we're part of the way there. The problem is it's half measures. Right now it's taken the shackles off of outside groups, but it still leaves them on the candidates themselves. So the candidates are at a disadvantage, and they cannot legally coordinate with any of these groups that are able to raise all this money.
You've seen how the sausage gets made in California, right? You know what's behind all the money. Do you think that there's a negative effect of allowing all of this, the super PACs and the other groups in?
It's a very unpopular opinion to say that I think that Citizens United was correctly decided. I think the equitable solution would be to just take all the limits off of, on candidates, allow them to raise whatever they want, and require immediate disclosure for anything. That way you're not going to have these dark money groups with campaign contributions that don't legally have to be reported. You're able to see where the money is coming from, who is paying for this message, and sunlight is a good thing.